ladies and gentlemen, it took me over 50 years of mistakes, lessons, failures, small wins, heartbreaks, and realizations to understand what I'm about to share with you in the next 10 minutes. And if you truly listen, not just hear, but listen, you might save yourself decades. Let me start with this. We are all running, but most of us don't know why. From a young age, we're told, study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, earn money, build a life. And we follow this path blindly, not because it's right, but because it's normal. But here's what took me 50 years to realize. At first, it sounds like a simple warning, almost obvious. Of course, we're in control of our own lives, right? But look closer, and you'll realize how quietly control slips away when you're not paying attention. From the moment we're young, choices begin to stack up around us. What to study, how to behave, what success looks like. Many of those decisions aren't really ours. They're shaped by family expectations, cultural norms, social media influence, and the fear of standing out. Without realizing it, we start following a script that was written long before we even questioned it. It doesn't happen all at once. It's subtle. You choose the safe subject instead of the one you're curious about. You pick a career that sounds respectable instead of one that excites you. You stay quiet in conversations because you don't want to be judged. Each small compromise feels harmless in the moment, but over time, those choices begin to define your entire direction. One day, you wake up and realize you've been walking a path you never intentionally chose. The truth is, the world is full of voices ready to tell you who you should be. Society rewards conformity because it's predictable. People around you often project their own fears and limitations onto your decisions. Be realistic. They say, don't take risks, follow what works. And while some of that advice comes from a place of care, it can also quietly box you into a life that feels secure but empty. When you don't actively decide what matters to you, you end up living according to what matters to everyone else. Choosing your life requires awareness. It means pausing long enough to ask yourself uncomfortable questions. What do I actually want? What kind of life would feel meaningful to me, not just impressive to others? What am I avoiding because I'm afraid of failing or being judged? These questions are not easy, and that's why many people never ask them. It's simpler to follow the crowd than to stand alone in your own truth. But the cost of that simplicity is a quiet sense of dissatisfaction that grows over time. There's also a hidden danger in waiting. Many people believe they'll take control later. Later, when they have more money. Later, when they feel more confident. Later, when the timing is right. But later has a way of turning into never. The longer you delay making intentional choices, the more momentum builds in a direction you didn't consciously pick. Responsibilities increase, options narrow, and the life you didn't choose becomes harder to change. Choosing your life doesn't mean everything becomes clear overnight. It doesn't mean you'll have a perfect plan or guaranteed success. It means you take responsibility for your direction, even when it's uncertain. It means you're willing to make decisions based on your values instead of just external expectations. Sometimes that will feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it will mean disappointing people or stepping into unfamiliar territory. But discomfort is often a sign that you're finally making decisions that are truly yours. There's a difference between drifting and deciding. Drifting feels easy in the short term because it requires no effort. You simply go along with whatever comes your way. But in the long run, drifting leads to regret. The feeling that you could have done more, been more, experienced more. Deciding, on the other hand, can feel difficult at first because it forces you to take ownership. You can't blame circumstances or other people when things don't go as planned. But deciding also gives you something powerful, control over your story. Every day you are shaping your life through small choices. What you say yes to, what you say no to, how you spend your time, who you listen to, what you prioritize. These decisions may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create your future. If you're not intentional about them, they will be influenced by whatever is loudest or easiest in the moment. There's also courage involved in choosing your life. It takes courage to trust your instincts when they go against the norm. It takes courage to pursue something uncertain when there are no guarantees. It takes courage to define success on your own terms instead of borrowing someone else's definition. But without that courage, you risk living a life that looks right on the outside and feels wrong on the inside. At the end of the day, no one else has to live with your choices but you. Not your parents, not your friends, not society. You are the one who wakes up each morning and lives the consequences of the path you're on. That's why it's so important to be intentional. Because when you don't choose your life, you slowly give away your power, piece by piece, until you're left wondering how you ended up somewhere you never meant to be. It sounds almost uncomfortable. Doesn't it? We like the idea of being ready. We wait for that moment when everything aligns, when we feel confident, prepared, certain, and fully capable. We tell ourselves that once we reach that point, then we'll begin. Then we'll take the risk, make the move, speak up, launch the idea, chase the dream. But the truth is, that moment of perfect readiness is an illusion. It doesn't arrive the way we expect it to. Readiness feels like it should come before action, but in reality, it comes from action. Most people get this backwards. They think confidence creates momentum when it's actually momentum that creates confidence. When you wait to feel ready, you're waiting for something that only shows up after you've already begun. It's like standing at the edge of a pool, waiting to learn how to swim before you get in the water. The learning doesn't happen outside the experience. It happens because of it. Fear plays a big role in this hesitation. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. These fears convince you that you need more preparation, more time, more certainty. They disguise themselves as logic. I just need to plan a bit more. I'll start when I have everything figured out. But often that's not preparation, it's avoidance. It's a way of protecting yourself from discomfort while telling yourself you're being responsible. The problem is, waiting has a cost. Every day you delay, the opportunity doesn't stay frozen in time. The world keeps moving. Other people take chances. Situations change. Your own energy and motivation can fade. What once felt exciting starts to feel distant. And slowly, the idea that once mattered to you becomes something you used to think about. There's also a hidden truth about readiness. Even the most successful people rarely feel it. They just move forward anyway. They start before they feel confident. They take steps while still unsure. They make decisions without having every answer. And through that process, they grow into the person who can handle the challenge. If they had waited to feel completely ready, they would still be waiting. Starting before you feel ready doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean ignoring preparation completely. It means understanding that preparation has limits. There's only so much you can learn without actually doing the thing. At some point, You have to step out of thinking and into action. That's where real progress begins. There's a shift that happens when you take that first step. It may be small, even uncomfortable, but it changes something internally. You move from imagining to experiencing. You stop asking what if and start discovering what is. You begin to gather real feedback instead of relying on assumptions. And most importantly, you prove to yourself that you're capable of moving forward despite uncertainty. Another reason people wait is the desire for perfection. They want the first step to be flawless. They want the plan to be perfect. They want the outcome to be guaranteed. But perfection is another illusion that keeps you stuck. The first version of anything is rarely perfect. It's messy, incomplete, and full of mistakes. That's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're learning. When you accept that imperfection is part of the process, it becomes easier to begin. You stop putting pressure on yourself to get everything right from the start. Instead, you focus on progress. Each step teaches you something. Each mistake refines your approach. Each experience builds your confidence. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes manageable, and what once felt uncertain becomes familiar. There's also something powerful about acting in the presence of doubt. It builds resilience. It strengthens your ability to move forward even when conditions aren't ideal. Life rarely offers perfect timing. There will always be reasons to wait, always uncertainties, always risks. If you rely on perfect conditions, you'll remain stuck in the same place while life moves on around you. Taking action early also gives you an advantage. Time, the sooner you start, the more time you have to learn, adjust, and improve. Even if your first attempts are imperfect, you're gaining experience while others are still hesitating. Over time, that difference compounds. Small steps taken consistently can lead to significant progress, while waiting leads to stagnation. It's important to recognize that readiness is not a feeling you wait for. It's a decision you make. You decide that you're ready enough to begin even if you don't have all the answers. You decide that learning through action is better than waiting in uncertainty. You decide that progress matters more than perfection. Every meaningful journey starts with a moment like this, a moment where you could wait or you could begin, where you could stay in the safety of preparation or step into the discomfort of action. That moment doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It's often quiet, personal, and simple, but it has the power to change your direction completely, because once you start, everything shifts. You gain clarity, you build confidence, you create opportunities that didn't exist before. You become someone who takes action instead of someone who only plans. And that difference shapes not just what you achieve, but who you become along the way. So start now. Start scared, start small, but start, because 10 years from now you'll either thank yourself or wish you had begun today. The choice is yours. Thank you.